It was going to be a packed hunt, all jammed into 4 days. But it was time to get down and dirty, get down into the terrain and try to find a buck that we could stalk right out of the gate. And that's appropriate since we had a lot of gates to open on this hunt. Just being a nice guy doing it. And what we're discovering is deer populations aren't that high this year apparently, because we're not seeing much of anything. As a South Dakota native, it's hard for me to turn down any invite to come back to the Rushmore State to hunt. So my buddy Neil Davies at Hornady, he dropped me a text one day and said, "What are you doing in November?" And I said, "What do you think I'm doing? I'm hunting deer." He gave me some dates. I looked at my calendar. I could fit that hunt in. And the invite was for the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in the southwest part of South Dakota, some of the most remote and rugged country that the state has to offer. Yeah, I put Pine Ridge on my schedule and we were ready to hunt. Day one, well, we got a little bit of a late start just because we were all converging from different points on the compass, and we met up with two of our guides, Al and Milton. And they were with the Ogallala Sioux Parks and Recreation Department. They knew where the deer were, and they had a great grasp on the entire reservation. They were going to be our tour guides, so to speak, and help us judge deer, point out deer, and most importantly, make sure we were on tribal lands. And with the help of Al and Milton, and later on Kevin, who joined us from that department, we were going to ensure that every deer we looked at, hey, it was a tribal deer and good for my tag that I had in my hand. And what was that tag good for? Well, it was good for whitetail or mule deer. It was going to be a packed hunt, all jammed into 4 days. God, I haven't seen a deer yet.
Thought you were good at this stuff.
Well, Milton keeps telling me stories and he's distracting me.
Faking it, I get it.
So what are you thinking about today?
But what they do in that situation is they want to get out in the middle of it as fast as they can.
Fast as they can, they come flying out of it.
So they got some security, but they're not going to just mosey out. They're going to cruise as fast as they can to get some space between them and the brush.
Okay, let's just go look at a couple more spots here. We'll go out and mark that other spot, and then we'll make the last plan for the last 2-3 hours of the day.
Sounds good.
It's our first day hunting in South Dakota. We got a little slow start today just because of some logistics and meeting up with guides and personnel to show us where to go. Really didn't hurt us any. The wind's screaming at 50 plus miles an hour. I'm sure there's gusts close to 60 today. The few deer we've been seeing as we've just been driving the perimeter of this property and getting to know it have been kind of spooky. I think we're just spooking them here and there. But it's getting close to dark now. We're gonna try to get down into a draw out of the wind and see if we can't catch some of these whitetails or mule deer rutting, because it is the pre-rut. The estrus, the does are about to come into estrus. The peak rut is just a few days away, a little less than a week. Things are happening, so is the wind.
Deer and Deer Hunting TV is brought to you by
Well, that first afternoon, my confidence started to drop. because as we started hunting, the wind started kicking up. And it was dry in Lakota country this year. A major drought had swept over the region. It was gringy, dirty, grimy, and hard to see because of all the dust in the air. But we did our best. We were glassing hard. But the deer, you know, when there's winds that are going in excess, blowing in excess of 55 miles an hour, they know which coulees to dive into, which ravines to duck into, and where to hide out in those deep, dark canyons. At the end of that first day, we really hadn't seen much activity at all. So my confidence had dropped. But the next day's forecast, as I was checking it out on my Hunt Stand Hunting app, it looked a little better, and we were gonna go to new country. So you know what they say, hey, try another day if the first day doesn't work. On day 2, we started out in the same area. During the course of that day, deer sightings were still down. Now the temperature had spiked that day. It was a major warm front coming in, followed by a cold front. So with the high temperatures, the big vast country where deer could hide literally almost anywhere, we just weren't seeing what we wanted to see.
It's just not a good day for deer movement right now. Kind of got a little later start, just how things worked out this morning. We're in what I would tell you is just fantastic country where you should be seeing mule deer. Unfortunately, they're just not out and about. I mean, there's some brushy draws, but they should still be out on the sides of these hills, and we're just not seeing them, not yet anyway.
Well, Neil, the last half hour, actually, we found some deer.
Yeah.
We didn't find any mature deer, so to speak, but there were deer in here, and that means there could be a mature deer. So it took all day to find 30 minutes of excitement. But
yeah, our
it was
off-road miles to deer ratio is not good right now. But
we put the miles on it. You know, it's an all learning curve. Deer hunting.
Tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah, we'll give her a try tomorrow, and
but at least it's encouraging. We saw some bucks.
and we might just start right back here. So.
Yeah.
All right, let's head home. Day 3. Well, the forecast was off. It was worse than what they had forecast. We come out of where we were staying, and all of us almost hit the ground on the icy conditions. So I had no opportunity that morning. Hiking back to meet up with Neil, we had more good news. Al was back. He was back at another spot and had spotted a real nice whitetail buck that took a hot doe into a brush patch. Now, would that buck be there if we hurried all the way back? Who knows, it's a rut. But Neil, he would take the gamble, go all the way back and try to see if this buck was still in the buck brush, and I would hook up with Milton and go look for some more country. It was a great plan, and it worked out good for both of us, but maybe just a touch better for Neil, because when he got back there, that buck was still in the same small little coulee with a hot doe, and it was a good buck. Neil's a pretty good shot, you know, 120 yards, that's a chip shot for him, and he ended his hunt with a gorgeous, mature Pine Ridge whitetail buck. He texted me, I texted right back, congratulations, and I kept on the hunt while he dealt with his new trophy.
Seven PRC. Once more. Precision hunter. Worked really well.
Day 4, yeah, well, that forecast was not good. My truck was coated in ice, as well as everything in the country. We had to come up with a plan if we were going to get a deer down, and that meant getting out and getting stealthy. I love glassing from the truck, spending as much time trying to find the different deer groups, maybe even spotting a trophy buck with the use of a spotting scope. But it was time to get down and dirty, get down into the terrain, and try to find a buck that we could stalk for that last day success. We were bumping more deer than I really wanted to. Finally, I spotted about maybe a half to 3/4 mile away the buck I wanted. He had joined up with some deer that we had bumped earlier. They all looked like they were calming down, starting to feed, and they went into this canyon out of sight. The best part of it, there were no deer between me and that canyon, and I took off as though I was wearing my running shoes instead of my heavy hiking hunting boots. But as I belly crawled up and kept peeking over with my Sig Sauer binocular, suddenly I realized I had hit the jackpot. Sending. That Hornady ELDX bullet hit that buck squarely in the vital zone, so hard and with so much shocking power that buck never got out of his bed. This is the mature deer we've been looking for. Make sure my gun is cleared. Talk about a brutal hunt on the Pine Ridge, but it ended well. Oh, this buck, you know, he's not super tall, but he's look at the mass in here. Look at this extra flyer right here. Nice. He's actually a 6x4. He doesn't have brow on this side, but this is what we're looking for. See how deep his chest is in here? Big bodied, heavy antlered. Oh, we are in the middle of, I think they call that freaking nowhere. And I've got mule deer success. This is my first rifle buck of the year, and I couldn't be happier. A good, quick, clean kill on a buck that was going to provide some tasty venison for someone in the local community. I was on the road, I couldn't necessarily deal with more meat, but I knew in the tribal situation that I had seen, there were plenty of needy families that would be happy to have venison like that in their freezer for the winter.
Deer and Deer Hunting TV is brought to you by
Hi, I'm Brad Fenson, here to show you the newest offering from 10-Point Crossbows. You know, they're really well known for producing high-end speed bows. Last year they came out with the Nitro 505. This is a really interesting blend of speed and maneuverability. This is a very short, compact bow, and they call it the Flatline 460. 10-Point's made a point of naming their bows for the true speed that a hunter looks for. So this is a 460. We ran it through the chronograph. It shoots 460 feet per second with a 400 grain projectile. So a 300 grain arrow with a 100 grain broadhead, still shooting 460 feet per second. Now that's performance. It's not some target arrow where you can force speed out of it. This is the rig you're going to use for hunting. Lots of things you're going to like about it. It's got a 13.5-inch power stroke. It's only 7.5 inches wide. When fully cocked, it's got the AccuSlide draw system, so you can use the crank. There's hardly any effort required to cock it, but it also decocks safely. You can let go of the handle, do all that. Of course, they've incorporated lots of their other engineering in, like these quad cables, which stabilize the cams and prevent lean. Now these cams, again, rotate more than 360 degrees, so it's like you're throwing shot put or a discus. That extra give really helps to launch these arrows. One of the unique things is the cantilever to mount the scope on. This year they put supports on it on both sides. These often get to flex and have a little bit of movement. This helps stabilize it, but what I noticed most about it is it quieted the bow. Anything without extra support that's metal is going to have vibration. These supports made this bow even quieter than the 10 points I've shot in the past. So, I mean, if you're looking for something, if you're a high adventure hunter, like the backcountry, like the backpack, or you're in a blind and you've got less room to maneuver, here's a compact bow that shoots fast and delivers everything that you would need to be a successful hunter in the field. Check it out, the Flatline 460.
Here's a question we get a lot of deer and deer hunting is, what type of arrow should I be shooting? You know, honestly, I know there's a lot of stuff out there. You're gonna look at videos and things from other people and they're gonna say you should be shooting big boy arrows and this and that and the other thing. And it really doesn't make much of a difference if you are just deer hunting and you're limiting yourself to a specific range. Like normal bow hunting ranges, 30 yards and under. Can I use a thicker arrow? Can I use a thinner arrow? Yes, you can use both. Are they going to both perform well? Absolutely. The difference that you're going to get, and this is probably where a lot of the confusion comes in, is why do they have, you know, these little micro thin, you know, 4mm arrows versus, you know, a 5 or a 6mm arrow that's, you know, we used to call them like telephone poles. There's differences here. A lot of it is with target shooters. Target shooters would like a thicker shaft for hitting the target because it's going to increase your chances of getting a higher score. Hunters like them too because they're light. Some of these arrows are super light and they fly fast, especially if you're shooting a very high-speed bow. You're gonna basically have one pin out to 30 yards, maybe even out to 35 yards. But the thinner arrows, yes, there are some light ones. I like the heavier, thinner arrows because these things really aid in penetration, and especially on those longer shots. So if you're looking at a 30 or a 40-yard shot, this arrow is perfectly fine. It's going to get good penetration. This one is going to get a lot more penetration because it's thinner. There's less wind drag there and it's heavier. So you're going to get some great performance on it. So at the end of the day, pick an arrow that works for you. Maybe ask your pro shop guy what he would recommend. You don't have to be married to that arrow. You can switch between arrows. You see me doing it all the time. I've got different arrows in my quiver. But find one that works for you and then limit it to the range that you're shooting when you're deer hunting. And I guarantee you are going to be happy with the end result.